This podcast is presented by the Prince George's County Memorial Library System.
Hi, I'm Hawa.
I'm Maria.
I'm Heather.
I'm Darlene.
I'm Hannah.
And this is our podcast, These Books Made Me. Today we're going to be talking about Gabi, A Girl in Pieces by Isabel Quintero. Friendly warning as always, this podcast contains spoilers. If you don't yet know who makes a really cool, unsafe for school zine, proceed with caution.
Hi, listeners. As we mentioned last episode, we had way too much to say about Gabi, A Girl in Pieces for one episode, so we'll be resuming our discussion. If you haven't listened to part 1, we discussed weighty topics like generational trauma and gender roles. We now return to Gabi, A Girl in Pieces with a plot summary to give you a refresher.
Gabi Hernandez is a high school senior who worries a lot. To be fair, Gabi has a lot to worry about. She has family trouble, boy trouble, friend trouble, and trouble loving herself. Gabi has wonderful best friends, Cindy and Sebastian, and they share her dreams of going to college and getting out of the sometimes suffocating small-town vibes of Santa Maria, California. But those dreams look like they might be derailed when Cindy becomes pregnant and Sebastian is kicked out of his home after coming out to his family. Gabi is dealing with her own drama at home as her father is a meth addict who disappears for long stretches and then shows up to ask her for money. Gabi's long-suffering mother works at the hospital and keeps the family afloat, but constantly harangues Gabi about her weight, acting too white, and keeping her legs shut. These are all things that eat at Gabi anyways. She thinks she's too fat and worries that boys won't like her. She thinks she's too white-looking and doesn't look Mexican enough. She has crushes on multiple boys and worries this makes her bad. Gabi excels at school, except in math class, and is on track to make her dream of attending college at Berkeley a reality. But it just feels like one thing after another is trying to get in the way. Her father returns to the family briefly as he attempts to go cold turkey, but quickly falls off the wagon again, but not before getting Gabi's mother pregnant. Gabi, in the meantime, throws herself wholeheartedly into her poetry class at school, discovering a real talent and finding support from her classmates and her teacher. Gabi also finds her first boyfriend in Eric, but loses interest pretty quickly and then catches him making out with Sandra at the mall. She's not single for long, though, as Martin, the boy she's been crushing on in poetry class, admits he's been falling for her for a while. They are both talented young poets and come to share the bond of losing a parent way too young. Martin's mother died when he was in middle school, and after another brief interlude of sobriety at the holidays, Gabi finds her father dead from an overdose in the garage. Post-funeral, Gabi's brother, Beto, spirals and begins drinking on top of frequently ditching school and getting arrested for his graffiti, and her mom goes into premature labor after an explosive fight. Cindy has her baby and names him Sabi, a portmanteau of Sebastian and Gabi. Gabi's frenemy, Georgina, also ends up pregnant and panicked because her violent father will literally kill her if he finds out. So Gabi and Martin take Georgina to get an abortion. It's not all bad, though. Gabi starts to get her college acceptance letters, and Berkeley said yes. But as usual, Gabi's mom and Tia Berta rain on that parade too and tell her it's a bad idea and they can't afford it. Gabi chooses Gabi for a change and starts figuring out how to get out and make her college dream happen. And life keeps moving. Tia Berta moves in to help with the baby. A kind of evil hot boy at school hits on Gabi, but she stays true to Martin. There's a Tijuana prom dress disaster, a near disaster with Tia Berta and a condom purchase, and a post-coital love poem and flowers from Martin. Things almost go completely off the rails when Gabi attacks Cindy's rapist in the school hall and gets arrested and suspended. The principal intervenes and Gabi's allowed to return to school after the charges are dropped. She can't walk with her class at graduation, but her admission to Berkeley is safe. Everyone, including Tia Berta's new boyfriend, celebrates at Pepe's House of Wings, and Gabi and Martin are off to Berkeley in the fall. I do want to just say, Gabi's kind of a genius. She's a little bit of a prodigy with the poetry. I mean, some of the poems in here are just, they're really good. They're not really teenager feeling poems. I think they're very high level and well written. Some of them are not, and you can see that.
Yeah.
I think her one about the roses and the geranium and stuff is that's a little bit more okay, yeah, I see what you did there with the metaphor you got from this poet. And now you're like, I'm going to make it my own. I'm going to do it this way. But the ones that she writes about her family are intense and they are beautifully, beautifully written. And I love that, like, that's what makes Martine fall for her, basically, is just like the way she thinks about the world and how she can express that. Like, he's so drawn to that.
I love that she goes from like being with Eric, who she doesn't even feel like she can talk to about what's going on in her family.
She barely likes Eric.
Yeah, she's like, okay, this guy likes me. I guess I kind of like him. That's kind of how it felt with Eric too. I can like really be my truest, most open self. Like, she's sharing these poems with Martin, and she could be like comfortable with him in that way before they even actually, you know, became official. Also, side note, I think it's so funny how they're just like, so you be my girlfriend? Like, is that what we are?
No, but he did the Spanglish. He's like, will you be my novia?
Yeah. That was cute.
Yeah, I think another pop culture reference, the scene where Martin is going to write his poem along with Gabi at her house, and she's just like, oh, that's very, what did she say? It's just like a very basic poem. And it just reminded me of like Mean Girls, where Aaron Samuels is helping her with math. And she's like, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's like, okay. It's just like, just with the poetry, poetry standards for Gabi are just much higher, which for Martin, I think, clarified, like, his best poetry was about his mom as well.
I like that, though, because she was like, I think she didn't, like, overdo it. Like, she didn't say, like, oh, my God, this is so amazing. She kind of was like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to read a poem, it should be the one about your mother. Yeah. Like, you're written on this one, but I, you know, like, I'm kind of making it known. I don't think this is your best work. This one a little
more. Can we talk about the teacher, though? This might be, like, one of the only books where we have a teacher that was just good. Yeah. She was good from start to finish. And even, I don't know that we really got a bad teacher in that. I mean, the math teacher seems not like the most engaging, but she's not like damaging, or I don't remember if it was a man or a woman. And the principal intervenes at the end to make sure that Gabi's like admissions aren't hurt or anything like that by the incident. So maybe the only book in which we've had a uniformly positive depiction of teachers.
Yeah, which I think is pretty cool.
I do too. And that teacher rocked. Like, she was like getting good experiences for those kids. And the part where she got so mad at I don't remember the kid's name that like made the slur in class about gay people, because like, I guess Sebastian had put a photo of like two guys holding hands or something. And this kid was like, why do we always have to do what the gays say or whatever? Yeah. And then the teacher like got him in trouble. It was like, did a referral for the slur and stuff. And then she said something like,
I wish I could have written him up for being an effing idiot.
Yeah. She's like cursing on her. Yeah, he's like, oh.
And Gabi is so thrilled because it's so like validating. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I appreciated her and the fact that she always tried to like expose them to like different types of poetry and different like poets.
Even the band stuff.
And it would help her in like finding her own voice and then also relating it to certain things. Because I feel like she tries to relate each poet that she's kind of reading to some moment in her life or something she's thinking through. So yeah, it was just nice to see an educator or like a teacher that really cared about like progressing her kids or her students, and then also believing in them so much, right? Like at the end, she says, like, I think you guys are all going to be famous one day. So it's just really nice that she gave them that support.
And former students came back to work with the current students. I thought like spoke volumes about her as an educator. But I also love like, I mean, I guess it's kind of meta, but I feel like this book then, Quintero is doing the same thing that the teacher was doing. Because like, if you read this as a teenager, you have like a great reading list of like, oh, like if you hadn't been exposed to this, okay, well, maybe you will go and check out the beat poets. Maybe you will go and pick up Maya Angelou because like she mentions her, or like Lucille Clifton. Like she runs through so many, she name checks so many great poets across the spectrum of genres, you know, like everything from the romantics, who like Martina's really into the romantics. And I think that's great. Like I can totally imagine that if I had read this when I was a teenager, I for sure would have checked out like any of the poets that she references that I had not been exposed to. Or like even like Martine gives her the signed book from Sandra Cisneros. And I was like,
That was really sweet.
I love that that, and then there was also like a reference to like, "Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret."
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, so these books made me.
Yeah, so this is the perfect close to the season.
These books made Gabi.
Yeah, I think with I mean, she was the only teacher too who would like when her dad overdosed. She was the only, aside from like, I mean, even
she
like
gave her the illegal hug.
Yes, she. I mean, she didn't even have to add the fact that her father killed himself, but like the fact that she was like right about it. Like, express it, like just let it out. I think the only thing about the teachers that made me a little sad was that when Gabi was mentioning Georgina, like, the school knew the situation at home. So that was a bit of a bummer. It's just like, well,
there's just not a whole lot you can do, though. I mean, when it said that the school was aware of it, and, you know, I mean, I took that as the school has reported this, and it's just like, well, too bad. There's not a whole lot, like, because once kids are teens, it's like.
But otherwise, Miss Abinard was, she definitely came through for Gabi during that situation. And
Yeah, and I think Gabi said she appreciated that she spoke to her about it when most people were just avoiding the topic because...
Like, oh,
like
how
the
are
plague.
you?
Yeah, what are you going to answer to that? And she was like, well, I just say good, and then people are confused.
I think another thing that this book touches on is obviously Gabi's culture, and one way it does that is through food, although I think it talks about food in general, but very often Mexican food. And then also in Gabi, I guess, feeling or maybe being told that she's not really Mexican enough. How did you guys kind of think about that situation? Because I can't remember if anyone told her that, but I felt like she felt it.
Well, her mom's like constantly saying you're going to try to be like the white girls if you go to college. Like girls go to college and then they get like the white girls and they run around with a lot of men and they do drugs and they drink and they do all of these things. So I think her mom was pretty explicit about like
you're too Americana.
Yeah, you're losing your culture.
You know, the worst thing in her mom's mind was for her daughter to go out and be a white girl. But honestly, though, like. I get it to a certain extent because it's just very like, I feel like, you know, with parents who are like immigrants, they come to this country and they worry about their kids like losing part of their culture. I just think it's so interesting because Gabi's just like, well, Mom, it's just not just a white people thing. Like,
let me tell you about all these pregnant girls at my school. Let me your son who smokes weed all the time. Like,
No, and this I mean, like even front desk, it's like the goal is to assimilate.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, it's polar opposites from when we read Front Desk, where the parents are like honored to be more American, hide the Chinese, like do all of these things. And this is total opposite, where it's like you're losing who you are. Like stop trying to be like.
Yeah, but also what you are is ABC.
And I've seen this mentioned in other forms of pop culture, like other books and other movies, that for a lot of immigrants, the motherland is thousands of miles away, you know, or it's like a long plane ride away. But, you know, with a lot of Latin American people from like Latin America, specifically Mexico, because it's like right there. It's so close. Yeah. And so there is like an even stronger like need from parents to want to like retain that heritage. And so it does become a little bit trickier to kind of navigate that because, I mean, you weren't born there. You really are American. So like, what does it mean that you're turning, you know, or that you're becoming too American? I agree that they are polar opposites, but then it also makes sense that they kind of would treat assimilation differently.
Yeah. And I think that's what we were with the mom. She was young when they moved here. And so it's just like, and that's what I find interesting, because usually we see a lot of like, at least Mexican American families who moved here years ago and had their kids here. They're all about like assimilating typically. And this was just the complete opposite. And it's more typical of new immigrant families. Because at least when I was a kid, my aunt would send me workbooks from Mexico. And she's just like, you can't lose your Spanish. You have to do your Spanish. And it's just like, every summer I would get a brand new workbook. So it's just like, a lot of pressure.
No, I think that's a really interesting point. I mean, we see her go, to Tijuana for the prom dress, and an attempt at a prom dress. That seems to have sucked. Yeah. She was terrible. But yeah, I do think like having grown up in a border state, I think that's a really interesting point, because the border gets way blurrier when you're in a border state than when you're 1,000. Like, you're not going to pop over to China to go get a dress or something like that. But, I think especially for people that don't live in a border state, there's like what you see on the news. You see like a river and you see a wall and you see the border is very loose. Like, and I've lived in Texas, Arizona, and California, and people go back and forth all the time. And so I think that would change how rooted you still are in both places for the folks that are here. I thought that was really interesting as well.
And something that Gabi also makes a lot of reference to, especially in the beginning when she's kind of like introducing us to other people. She talks about how she herself is lighter skinned and how other people are like darker skinned. And she also talks about how people are surprised when she does speak Spanish. So that kind of gives us like a introduction to kind of like what her family dynamic, what they all look like and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting, I thought, as well.
I like the contradiction too, that she very much wants to like, I guess, defend her Mexicanness. And, like, especially because people often, I guess, try to deny her of it or don't think that she looks Mexican enough. But then at the same time, she is in Tijuana and does not really enjoy a lot of aspects about it. So it's not like she's romanticizing it either. But she's kind of like, I am Mexican, like, don't take that away from me. But also, like, when I go to Mexico, it kind of sucks sometimes.
Tijuana is maybe not the best encapsulation of Mexico. Like, it's kind of its own.
And that's what she says. It's like its own like Americanism, like something like spread there. It's just like,
it's like Juarez. And if you cross from El Paso, like it's very similar, and or like in Arizona, like in Nogales, like it's weird. It's not Mexico. It's not America. It's just a weird border town. And that's true on both sides of the border. I feel like it was very much true. El Paso is also not like other American cities, because the border is just, it's this artificial idea. Like, it's, people go back and forth for work. They go back and forth to shop. It's no different than us popping into DC or Virginia to do something. And I think that really does change the dynamics in an interesting way.
Isn't it the place where she went to go get something to eat while she was waiting for her dress, and the guy like gave her a hard time? Are you sure? Are you going to eat all that? And she's like, yes, I am.
And she was like, he's bigger than me.
He's like 200 pounds.
Why are you telling me I don't need any more of this?
She's like, will you just sell me my food, please?
I will say,
I love her internal dialogue about that, though.
That was great.
She was like, are you afraid I'm not going to leave any for you?
No, I do think the food, I mean, we talked a lot about her hiding the junk food and like she comfort eats, and she knows that. She says several times she's going to eat her feelings about something. But I did really appreciate the importance of food in it. I mean, we had that negative, but there's also the positive looks at food, like when she's talking about Cindy's mom making the enchiladas because it's Cindy's favorite. Now Cindy's like far along, and like, it's a way to bond and heal. And she talks about like her tia's sopes being better, I think, than her mom's and stuff like that. And it's so rooted. I mean, we talked about this even with the Josefina books. Like, to me, that's just such a real part of culture in a border state, in a family that is, has a foot on both sides. Like, the cooking is a thing that you really hold on to with the culture, and that brings you back to it. So even if all of these other things, or the mom is upset about like, oh, you're getting too white, or you're doing this and you're doing that, they're all the same when they're cooking, you know, like they're all the same when they're eating that food together. And I think that that's a really, I don't know, for me, that felt just super relatable. And I think so many of my memories are about food and cooking and like being in the kitchen with my grandparents. And I think that's a really true thing about how people hang on to their culture.
Yeah. And I mean, so it is very like cultural in this book, but I also, you know, thinking about food and like it bringing people together, like Heather was saying, I like that it ended at the because that's like what she's gonna miss the most. That's like a, you know.
Didn't she describe it as being like a weird Mexican Italian wings place?
And others. She had wings and flan and like.
So maybe it is partly cultural, but I like that that was the meeting place because obviously like she couldn't actually walk with her. That's not really that funny because, you know, that was sad that she couldn't walk with her friends, but like that was their meeting, like that was their meeting spot. And so like that's where I guess she kind of made up with her aunt, and then Martin came to find her. So it was just really nice and like a really good like tie to the whole book at the end because like Kawa said, she did keep bringing them up because they're the ones at the beginning that she had to sign a waiver because it was like really hot wings.
Hot, and then Cindy can't eat but the lemon pepper because it will give her like Cindy and her mom have to get the like lemon pepper because they'll get heartburn because they're pregnant. But
the salsa verde, no salsa verde.
She never says if the wings are as hot as the waiver makes them imply.
Yeah, she didn't,
are.
right?
I wanted a report on the heat of the wings, and we never got it.
She said that they did mess with her stomach a bit, right?
Yes, but she didn't say.
She said she got the runs the next day.
She described that part of the experience. She didn't describe the eating part of the experience.
True.
That's the part I wanted to hear about.
Thing,
No, it was when I was reading that, it was like, oh, she really like foretold what hot ones was going to be.
We should do it.
Yes, because you can buy, I didn't realize, but when my brother was visiting, you can buy the like sauces that they use. So like you can get like a kit that has the different levels.
My sister has the like last stab one. I like tried a bit of it. I was like, they eat a whole. They like dab that on. Yeah, no, I'm okay.
I know we talked about her father's addiction. Did we talk about how like how a dude literally showed up to the house and was like, yeah, either you're going to give me this money or I'm going to sleep with your wife. Like that?
Yeah, but that's so real.
Yeah.
Like so real. I read that and I was like, oh, I had a case where that like straight up happened. Like he basically sold his daughter for drugs.
And what made me think
meth is a horrible drug, y'all. I can't even. It was everywhere in Tucson. Pretty much every case I worked, someone on it had a meth problem, and it's bad. Like it's so bad. And
what made me think about it was because I was thinking about, well, I know that at one point she said like the money that she gave up was like the money that she was going to use. The mom was going to go use to go visit her sick mother, and we never really heard much about that. So that's what made me think about that. I was wondering about that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember, because she was like thinking through it after. And I, like, again, it was like a really realistic portrayal where it's like, you still love this person because they're, you know, your dad, and you kind of remember partly like how they were and like the person they could be if they like didn't have this addiction. But at the same time, he did something so incredibly messed up. And she was like trying to process all of that. So I thought that was very realistic. But yeah, I remember when it first came up in the book, I was like, I can't believe that he would do this. But then at the same time, it's like, and
it's again that whole like getting from every angle that your value is a woman is what's in between your legs, you know? And I think she even said that, like, why do we always get like reduced down to our parts, basically? And she's getting it from both sides. Her mom's doing it very explicitly, like you've got to be skinnier, you've got to be prettier, you've got to get the right man, and don't open your legs before you're married, and do all of this. Boy, is there a more powerful message of that than her dad, like
literally, like,
selling her mom or trying to, because that's the only value he has left of anything. And you know, how much that's like treating a person as property. And like, there's just so much going on there that's gross. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to backtrack.
No, that's fine.
No, but speaking of the dad, now that I'm thinking about it, because it was at the end where she says it, but he was a really good storyteller, which again was a really nice callback to the fact that obviously she gets into poetry and she herself is a really good storyteller. So yeah, that doesn't fit anywhere in this conversation. But like, I just thought about that right now. I was like, oh, because they do share some similarities.
Yeah, and like, you know, the book doesn't necessarily like paint her dad as like, and she even says it in like at his funeral, like, you know, he's not a bad guy. He just made some bad choices, you know? And she's like, and she was real. She was like, look, we know he did drugs. Like, we're not about to act like that's not why he died. Yeah. But, you know, still, these are some memories I had with him.
Mm-hmm. And she called out a bunch of people at the funeral too.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off guard.
I had to reread that part. I was like, is she imagining this?
Or is she saying it? Yeah.
And I was like, she's saying it. And I was like, good for you, Gabi.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we want to talk about? Because I know that some of the things on this list we kind of like said in passing, but I don't know if we wanted to revisit anything like more explicitly or more in detail.
I guess the only thing I wanted to touch on was mostly because it was a very, at least growing up experience where like quinceañeras, and I was just like, because I was reading this and I'd mentioned earlier the 2006 movie. I don't know if anyone's seen it, Quinceañera. And there's the 16-year-old, her name is Magdalena. She's Mexican-American living in Los Angeles, and her quince is getting ready to come up, but she ends up getting pregnant literally right before, and like her parents basically kick her out. She gets disowned, and it just like attack her for like Gabi's mom's like for opening her legs. And essentially like you find out that, I mean, they never really had intercourse. She got pregnant, but they didn't actually have intercourse. And I remember like during this time frame, because at least it's still traumatizing me, and there are so many girls were getting pregnant right after their quince, or like were pregnant during their quince. So for me, I think I had like 5 cousins, and then my quince was like up, and I was just like, oh my God. So like this movie, when it came out, I was just like, all the different ways you can get pregnant without actually having intercourse. And that just like kept growing in my mind. But because at least during that time, like, I don't know, I know Bladensburg High School, I think, had an uptick in like pregnancies during that time. Because I think I was a sophomore in high school, and it was just like everywhere. And it's just like everyone was getting pregnant. I was just like, and then it just reminded me of like.
You sound like Gabi and her stats about the schools. She's like, yeah, I think of all the schools around me.
No, and that's the thing. And like, it's, I mean, at least now, like, it's going into politics, like millennials and like children. And it's just like, it's just like kind of difficult to like look at it now, and it's just like seeing how everything's changing. But yeah, just a very random like add to it because yeah, it must like Gabi saw Cindy get pregnant. She saw what Regina went through, and like her decision to have an abortion instead of actually get more hurt by her father. So it's just like it's very impactful, and I think that in a way will also kind of like change how if Gabi were to have kids, kind of like how it will impact her as well when she's like a mom, if she becomes a mom.
Yeah. And it was a lot of different experiences too, because you have Cindy and what happened to her. Then you have Georgina, which for her, it was like a really good example of like how just telling someone you shouldn't do this and then being really strict about it is actually not really going to have the effect that you think it's going to have. Yeah. Like really, if they, you know, if she knew more or had more education or surrounding like sex and pregnancy, maybe she would have made different choices, because I feel like we see that a little bit more in Gabi, who's like kind of, it seems that she knows a little bit more, you know, or has heard a little bit more. So, but then we also get Gabi's mom's perspective, where it's like she was still shunned or like, you know, thought negatively of by her own mother. And she was like 25. Yeah. But it was just because she, you know, had sex out of marriage. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I mean, I do think that teen sexuality is looked at in an interesting way in this book compared to some that we've seen. Like, I certainly would say Gabi and Martine's relationship is way healthier than the one in Forever, which was ostensibly about like a healthy teen relationship.
Yeah.
So we have that really good, respectful, they're being thoughtful about birth control, even though it's hard for them. Like, I think that's a really nice, like, let's look at an actual healthy relationship.
And they went off to college together at the end. I love that for Gabi. Even though, like, I know this isn't a romance, but, like, I loved that she was able to have that for herself despite, like, being the girl who didn't think she was going to be able to have any of those things because she was fat. So, yeah.
And I think at some point, like, her mom snuck an anatomy book to her.
Yeah,
like,
she
don't tell
talked
your dad.
about, like, how, her mom got, like, worried and wanted her to know some things, but like didn't really know how to approach it. And
So we're going to get into this little game segment. So for this segment, we are taking a quiz from uquiz.com, and it's called Which Romantic Poet Are You? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the question, read the responses, and then we can all go around and say, what's going to apply to us. Question number 1. Your friend hands you the aux. What song do you put on? Some 21 Pilots song, Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice, any song from U2's album Songs of Innocence, Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, or Let It Be by the Beatles. Isn't Songs of Innocence that U2 album that they put on like everybody's like iPhone or iPod? Like,
I feel like that's such a bizarre choice of YouTube albums to pick. They're like, how about Joshua Tree? I'm like, I feel like that's not the one you pick here, but okay.
Right. It would be none.
Honestly,
I know this is not
I don't
great.
like any of these.
But for the vibe, or just to like liven things up, I guess I would choose Ice Ice Baby.
Same with me, Darlene.
you know what? I'd probably put on any tune from YouTube's album Songs of Innocence just to troll my friends.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm going to just go with, because it's almost fall, I'm going to just do Let It Be, just the mellow.
I don't know. I'm going to close my eyes and put the cursor on something.
Okay.
I chose Ice Ice Baby, apparently.
Okay, question number 2. There's a graphic here that says the romantic poets and their fast food associations. Maybe we'll put that on the blog or something. I don't know. It's the new year and your resolution is to lose weight. # New Year, New Me. How do you go about dieting? Tune into some new dieting pills. Strictly vegan. Use meditation and visualize your journey ahead. Try all the latest dieting fads. Poke around the food on your plate, not really saying or eating much.
Why
Can
is
I
it
just
exercise
say,
one?
why is this a question, but also
Why
like,
does this relate to the fast food choices of the romantics?
but also it kind of fits the book, I will say.
It's got zine vibes.
Now it does make me think we should have taken it as Gabi.
I'm going to put use meditation and visualize the journey ahead.
Same, because what?
I don't even know.
I think I'm going to do the same. Meditation and visualize. The other ones just sound
Unhealthy.
so unhealthy.
Well, strictly vegan it wouldn't be like super unhealthy, but it's like, it's so like
Extreme.
Yeah, it's extreme. It's like, I would not stick
I
to
also
that.
feel like you don't go vegan to lose weight. You go vegan for like philosophical reasons. So I object to that as like I guess I'm going to poke around the food on my plate because I just don't.
I think there are people
Why?
that do go vegan thinking it will help them lose weight, but that's not.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a sound strategy.
Not really saying or eating much because you're so hungry.
Exactly. Like, I feel like I'd be really sad about dieting. So I guess that's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to choose poke around the food on your plate. I hate all these options again.
All right. Was that everybody?
Yes.
Question's
better.
Question number 3. When you think of nature, you think of the cruelty of nature and the endless cycle of death, the simplicity and beauty of nature, having nostalgia for the way the world used to look, the phrase, sometimes I prefer nature to humans, the power nature and the heavens has over us, how free and innocent creatures are.
Oh, I prefer nature to humans 100%.
I think I'm going to put the simplicity and beauty of nature, having nostalgia for the way the world used to look.
I'm very romantic.
I don't know if I have nostalgia for it, but I mean, it is really simple and beautiful. Like I'm saying it more so for the first half of that statement.
Before global warming. How free and innocent creatures are.
Endless cycle of death.
Yeah.
I love how we all picked. Well, no, nobody picked the power in nature. Nature and heavens has over us. Okay. Question number 4. What club would you most likely be a part of? The Art for Justice Club, creating pieces of artwork to advocate for social justice and address prevalent issues. The Theater Club, there's nothing like putting on a grand show playing exotic characters. The Disney Club, showing old childhood movies to awaken imagination and provide a distraction from worries. The Cloud Watching Club, simply sitting and enjoying the beautiful sights and sounds of nature and the sky. The Hospital Volunteers Club, visiting those who are sick or injured to provide hope and comfort.
I was legit in like 3 of these clubs in real life. I was a candy striper in a hospital. I was a theater kid. And I was in something at my school called the Explorers Club, which was just to like get out in nature and hike and do things like that.
I think I'm gonna go Cloud Watching Club.
Yeah, cloud watching.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm gonna go with the Disney Club because this is basically what I do at work when I have movie programs. Like, hey, let's put on a Disney movie and likes.
I'll go with theater because I think I spent the most of my time doing that of the 3 clubs I was in on this. Oh.
It's the way that the silence just fell over the room.
I'm not saying this question. I'm gonna reword this question.
Like, what animal
do you
best
align
represents
with? Yes.
me?
Pick an animal.
What animal do you closely align with?
Why is tiger spelled wrong?
I was wondering that.
Is that a
Do you
thing?
know
Oh,
something that
I think
don't?
that's a poetic spelling, maybe.
Because we're going to do Coleridge.
Yeah, I think so.
Got it.
I think that's what it is.
There we go.
Albatross, nightingale, cuckoo, tiger, bear. What's an albatross?
It's a bird.
With a real big wingspan.
A large, awkward
So
looking
3 of these are
bird.
birds?
Yes.
I'm gonna go with a bear.
I'm also going bear.
I don't want to be Coleridge, so I'm not going with the tiger. I feel like the nightingale's going to make me be Keats.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with nightingale.
I'll go bear. I'm tempted by albatross, though. I think large birds are really cool.
Yeah, I can't decide between nightingale, albatross, bear. I do like how this bear is just like draped over the log.
Yeah, maybe I'll do albatross. I don't think
He
I
looks
sleep
very
enough to be a
comfy.
bear.
Number 6. What romantic movie synopsis most appeals to you? The tale of a dashing yet mysterious man and his numerous relationships throughout his years. The story of a young woman who learns how to read and write with instruction from her lover and eventually becomes advanced enough to assist her husband in his job. The story of 2 lovers torn apart, writing letters to each other in secret. The real-life struggles of a couple facing troubles with financial problems, war, that does not sound like a romance. Okay. The tale of one man forced into a marriage negotiation and not able to marry the woman who he is truly in love with. The women who he is truly in love with. Okay. It's you, Kit Woods. Okay. To me, I would say the story of 2 lovers torn apart, writing letters to each other in secret.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of these are kind of gross. Well, especially the like weird Pygmalion one here.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to figure out who that attaches to as one of the romantics, but I don't. I swear to God, if they make that be Shelley, I'm going to be really mad. You do not come from Mary Shelley like that.
But all of them seem like they're going to be men, right?
Well, all of the answers are going to be men, but if it's Percy Shelley, like I feel like they're maligning Mary Shelley if that's the like Percy Shelley answer, acting like he was the bigger deal than her.
Gotcha.
Maybe that's not the Shelley answer, but I'm afraid it is, and now I'm mad.
So the first one is going to be Byron, I assume.
Yeah, I would think for sure.
They described him wrong.
Yeah.
And I can't use the words I'm thinking of on the podcast without us bleeping everything, though.
Why is there not a synopsis about a guy who just moons over a girl and dies really young?
I guess I'll go
Which
with
one is the
writing
Keats
letters
one?
in
Yeah.
secret.
All right. I think we all did secret letters, right? Yeah. Secret letters are legit romantic. Nobody writes letters anymore. And like a secret text is not like a secret letter.
Because it's not secret.
The vanishing mode. On the
Or it comes from your burner phone. Like you get like a crappy track phone just to be like, I love you, you're beautiful.
Or you get a fake email address.
Yeah.
And then you write from there. You
Remember the random
write weird
AIM
letters
chats
to people.
Yes.
Like, who is this?
How would your friends describe you? Dashing yet moody, artistic and innovating, charming and eccentric, creative and daring, emotional and reserved.
Emotional and reserved.
Same.
I feel like I'm only one of several of these.
Yeah, these pairings are interesting.
Yeah.
I don't feel very creative, but I think I'm sort of daring. So I guess I'll go with that.
To match your theater background.
Yeah.
I feel like these are things that people don't say about you in earshot, so it's hard to know.
These are the things people say in your eulogy.
Exactly. How are we supposed to
Can
know
you
if we
imagine?
haven't
He
died
was
yet?
dashing, yet moody.
Did you pick one, Hannah?
No. I don't know what to pick. I'm just going to have to close my eyes again. Pick a random one. Okay, I picked creative and daring, apparently. Okay.
What should a poem be like? Very spur of the moment, a flood of emotions, long and confusing with supernatural elements, short yet powerful and symbolic, opinionated, controversial, and thought-provoking, emotional and deep, leaving you at a loss for words. I'm going to add some words in it.
Okay, so long and confusing with supernatural elements is another jab at Shelley, are we thinking?
That's what it seems.
I kind of want to pick that one just because it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I'm going to say opinionated, controversial, and thought-provoking, just to shake it up
that's a good
bit.
one.
It should rhyme. We learned that from Mrs. Westvessel.
I'll go short yet powerful and symbolic.
Yeah, I'm stuck between that and then emotional and deep.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go emotional and deep, leaving you for a loss of words.
I'm going to go with short, yet powerful and symbolic, because I do like a
I'm trying to
short
figure out
poem.
who they gave that one to, because I think emotional and deep is Keats. I'm very curious to see how this turns out. This person has an interesting idea about the romantics.
Yes. I guess I'll do a genuine. Well, thing is, like, a poem doesn't need to be one thing. There are many different types of poems.
Different moods, too.
Yeah. Short but powerful.
Surprise! A free plane ticket to anywhere in the world. Where are you headed? NYC, the Big Apple. You can be anything you want, anytime you want. No idea is too big. Lake Geneva. I hear the views are beautiful, the parties are crazy, and the ghost stories are scary. The City of London. There's nothing quite like the view from Westminster Bridge. On an Alaskan cruise, sailing amongst the glaciers and barren wilderness, summer with foliage and lots of it. Nothing beats the season of autumn. These all suck.
I mean, well, I'm going to choose somewhere with foliage.
That's what I'm
Although I
doing,
probably wouldn't
too.
have taken a plane. 'Cause I'm just
Yeah, you can just
drive up north.
Yeah. Go Frederick.
I'm going to pick London.
If the Alaskan thing hadn't been a cruise, like you're not really in touch with nature at all on a cruise. You're stuck on a boat.
That's
well,
why
they'll
I
let
kept
you
mine.
off, right?
Yeah, but only for a little bit. I
That's
just don't
true.
want to
Then
be
you
with
have
other
to-
people on a boat.
Then you have to get back on and then listen to your cruise director try to be funny.
Yeah, leaves for me.
I guess I'll go with leaves too, because at least it doesn't tie you onto a specific place.
Yeah. Dang it. How'd I get Coleridge after all.
All right, so read the description.
I am Samuel Taylor Coleridge. While reading Coleridge's work, one must have a, quote, willing suspension of disbelief in order to fully immerse themselves in the fantasy of his poems. Coleridge was known for his vivid imagination and his way of using supernatural elements to address prominent issues. That's a bummer. I love the romantics too, and Coleridge is like by far my least favorite. Man, I was trying to avoid him on that quiz too.
And you steered clear of the albatross, didn't you? Or did you pick that?
No, I picked the albatross. But like other ones, I was deliberately avoiding the... Well, and that had tiger, so that was not the Coleridge one.
Oh, no, he wouldn't have been the albatross.
He was
Okay.
tiger for
All right,
sure.
I'm mixing up my poets.
You look so disappointed right now. I wish I could see you. So I got William Blake. Known as the mad poet and said to have been possessed by visions, William Blake's famous illustrations and poems give insights into the free spirit of his mind and the pure brilliance of his character.
See, I would have been cool with Blake. I would have been cool with Byron. I would have been cool with Shelley, though I think this quiz person did not understand Shelley at all. We'll see.
I got John Keats, the teenage heartthrob of
For sure.
romantic poetry. John Keats' experience with death and misery caused him to create some of the most emotional and angst-ridden works of the 18th century. If you're into emo boys, this one's for you.
Keats, because Keats is like the original emo guy.
Yeah, which, it tracks because in high school I feel like. Anyway, it tracks.
I also got Keats, which again for me also tracks.
I'm the third person who got Keats.
None of us got Byron. Well, we didn't pick enough parties.
I have zero interest in emo boys. Although I was not in high school when emo boys was a thing, so it was irrelevant.
Yeah, Keats is too mopey for me. I just don't dig the like unrequited love thing. And that always felt a little creepy to me in his poetry. It's like, guy, I'm not sure she feels like that about you. Can you stop?
At least he channeled it into his poetry. And
That's true. And then he just died. So I don't know that he actually harmed anyone.
yeah.
Worse things he could have done with it. At least Byron was interesting.
Byron had a super weird life. Like he was very extra. But at least in an interesting way.
Oh, if you go down, it says here's how your results compare to others. Never mind.
What?
I thought
Shelley wasn't an option.
No. Wordsworth.
Wordsworth,
Coleridge,
I would not lump him with the true romantics. I think Wordsworth was, well, I don't know. I would put Shelley in there over Wordsworth.
I wandered lonely as a cloud.
Yeah. We should have known that from the one. No, oh well. Okay. Bechdel test time, I guess.
Okay, each episode we ask whether our book passes the Bechdel test. The Bechdel test asks whether a work features two female characters who talk to each other about something that doesn't involve men or boys. So, does it pass?
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, with her teacher alone, even just talking about poetry and her school aspirations after graduation.
I think at the beginning it was like with Cindy's and Gabby's conversations, like, oh no, if it keeps going. But otherwise, yeah.
But I mean, I will say, like, even if there are a lot of conversation about boys, I mean, it also is just kind of grappling with like
Life.
like patriarchy, like family dynamics, like it's, there's a broad spectrum there and they're just kind of trying to figure themselves out, particularly Gabi.
No, I mean, I feel like this is one of the most clearly feminist works we've read because it really, it does a lot of legwork for a teen girl in deconstructing the patriarchy, I think. Nothing has been this explicit about it, I feel like. Maybe a little bit, we got a little bit of that with Julia Alvarez, a little bit. But this is very direct about it, and I think that's cool.
Yeah. But also, I mean, with Alvarez, she had like 4 different characters
Right.
to kind of, and like each of them, I think, were at different stages kind of with grappling with patriarchy. But yeah, agreed.
Well, that's it for this season of These Books Made Me. Keep an eye out for some bonus content and a season 5 launch date. If you have books you'd like us to cover, drop us a suggestion on Instagram. We're at These Books Made Me.
Yay! Season 4. We did it.